Chapter 3. The plane landed in the early hour of the night, and a cab took them to the hotel room. It was a small room with only one bed, and other than a dresser, no other furniture. Nate declared, "You can have the bed. I'll sleep on the floor." Scarlett countered, "There's no way the floor could possibly be comfortable. You won't sleep well. The bed is large enough. We should be fine to share it without being awkward." Scarlett wouldn't accept him sleeping on the floor, no matter how hard he insisted, because she was only here thanks to him. Finally, the two lied in bed on the opposite sides, with enough room for another person between them. The sunlight streamed in through the curtains the next morning, and Scarlett opened her eyes. She had barely slept because she was so excited and anxious. Then she realized she was wrapped in Nate's arms. It caught her off guard, and she tried to unravel herself, but it stirred him. "Good morning," he chimed. He saw his arms then. "Oh, I'm sorry. I must have rolled closer to you in the night. We should get up and eat quickly. We are set to meet Maeve at 10 o'clock, so that gives us 2 hours." For better or for worse, the 2 hours flew by, and Scarlett found herself face to face with the door keeping her from the knowledge of her past. "I should turn and run while I have the chance. Some things are best left in the past, and surely this is one of them. I can use my imagination to fill in the blanks. Yes, we should turn and leave this instant. What was I thinking? I need to go. I can't face this." Nate sensed she was anxious and getting cold feet, so he slipped his hand into hers to let her know he'd be right there with her. Before she could turn and rush off, he knocked on the door. Not even a heartbeat passed before it flew open. "You're here!" the woman cried excitedly and leapt to hug Scarlett. Scarlett let her, but it was a very awkward embrace. Once the woman released her, Scarlett slipped her hand back into Nate's. "Please come in. Your mother is in the other room." Scarlett took a deep breath, and she and Nate entered the little cottage. They followed the woman into the home. She rounded a bend, and they paused in the door frame. Across the room sat a woman with the same shade of red hair that Scarlett has. The woman lit up and cried, "Aalliyah! I cannot believe this." The woman rose and slowly made her way across the room until she stood in front of Scarlett. "May I hug you?" Scarlett nodded, and the woman embraced her tightly, nearly crushing her. When she heard Scarlett wheeze, she quickly released her. "Sorry, I'm just so excited. Please come in and take a seat." Nate and Scarlett sat down on the couch and waited as the woman wiped a tear from her cheek. "I know you have a lot of questions, and I will be happy to answer all of them, but first I'd like to know, how are you, Aalliyah?" Nate and Scarlett shared a brief glance, and the woman read between the lines. "Your name isn't Aalliyah, is it?" Nate jumped in. "No, her name is Scarlett." "Well, I apologize. I had only known my daughter as the name her father and I gave her. Would you prefer I call you Scarlett?" Scarlett replied, "You may address me as you wish. If you know me as Aalliyah, you are welcome to call me that, but in the story you tell me, you must include why the note you left declared I was unnamed if you had named me." The woman sighed. "I didn't write that note, but I have a good guess who did. My name is Lisa, and you are welcome to call me that because you have never known me as your mother. How are you? How has your life been? I can see it looks like you are happily married in the least." "Oh, we're not married, or even dating for that matter. We are only friends. He was helping me. He got me to this point." "Ah, well, that is a shame. You two would make a cute couple. Picture perfect. His dark, dirty blonde hair contrasts your red so nicely. Anyway, forgive me for guessing wrong. I thought there was something between the two of you, as your hands have been linked ever since you've come into the room." Nate explained, "Learning the past can be challenging, and she was a bit nervous, so I took her hand to let her know I'm right here with her." "That's really sweet. I suppose I shall tell you the tale you've come here for." Lisa sighed heavily and her smile fell. "Aalliyah, you need to know your father and I love you very much, and we have never stopped loving you. I met your father when I was quite young, and it didn't take long for the two of us to fall in love. However, one problem stood in our way. I am an Irish Catholic, and he is an English Protestant. With the conflicts raging all over Ireland and Northern Ireland, our love was forbidden, but we couldn't help what the heart felt. We decided to get married, but no church, Catholic or Protestant, would marry us. We traveled to England and finally were able to get someone accepting to join us. We came back to Ireland then and tried to show the town how pure our love was and that nothing could stop us. The town turned against us even more. They made sure we both felt like outsiders and treated us terribly." "Why didn't you leave Ireland?" Scarlett questioned. "I love this land. It's my home. Your father, James, even wanted to remain here instead of going home to England. We convinced ourselves the town would get bored of tormenting us and find something more significant to concern themselves with. James and I decided we wanted to start a family, and you entered the picture. The town became worse then. It became unbearable, and I knew we couldn't stay a day longer. We packed the basic necessities and set off. Where to? We weren't sure. We considered going to another part of Ireland where no one would know us and starting over there, and we thought of going to England. The plan was we got to where we were going to live, Maeve would send the rest of our belongings. Off we went on horseback. Not in a car? We couldn't. We had a car, but the town had slashed the tires. We got new tires, and the day after they were slashed again, so we gave up trying to drive anywhere. We wandered out of County Kerry and started going where we felt called to go. Word spread fast, and many knew who we were and wouldn't help us. We heard from a villager Galway would welcome us no matter what our background. We were thrilled and began in that direction. All was well until you decided to come early on a late summer night. There was nothing we could do. We were in the middle of nowhere. Luckily, it was a full moon, and it provided enough light for James to provide me with the aid I needed. It was so magical. Right after you were born, the sky lit up with a meteor shower, and a few stars splintered into smaller meteors. Nate playfully elbowed Scarlet and remarked, "Star child." "What's that?" Scarlet filled in. "Nate is an astronomer. He has an obsession with the stars and their legends. Your story matches one of the tales, and he thinks I'm this special star child." "You are," he insisted. "Please continue the story." Lisa nodded and resumed. "We named you Aalliyah right then. The next day we ended up meeting up with a friend. He was so excited to see you. Initially, this friend had been against James and I, so I was surprised when he had turned soft towards me." "Why you?" "Oh, he is a Protestant and had known James for a while. Seeing him come around gave me hope in the world and our future. But he was a feathering art. He stayed with us for several days as we traveled closer to Galway. It was the day before we would arrive. We set up camp for the night. I held you and James close in my arms. I woke up to you crying. I saw the friend holding you, but he hurried off into the night. James and I mounted our horses and raced after him. He climbed into a helicopter, and as it took off, he shouted that Catholic and Protestant blood should never mix, and no child should be raised in such a disaster of an environment. He was out of our reach. There was nothing we could do. You were gone." Lisa shook, and tears overtook her as she recalled the awful memory. Scarlet shook too as she tried to resist crying. Nate put his arm around her and rubbed her shoulder, trying to comfort her. "Alas," Scarlet summarized, "you never wanted to give me up. But I was taken from you?" Lisa nodded. "James and I searched everywhere, but we didn't know how to find you. We had our friends scour the land. We even looked to England, but with so many people there, we hadn't a clue where to search. We hoped you would somehow be able to find us on your own, and you did." "May I ask about my father?" "He's at work right now, if that answers your questions. Maeve and I didn't exactly tell him you found us either. I wanted to make sure it was really you before getting his hopes up, but it is you. It'll be a lovely surprise when he comes home this evening. I was told you two are planning on staying a week?" They nodded. "Great, then I can show you around our town, and we can get to know one another. Oh, Aalliyah, you have no idea how many times I hoped this day would come, but it has at last." Just before dinner, the front door opened, and in walked James. He caught a glimpse of the living room and noticed two unfamiliar faces. He changed directions and headed over there. Briefly he glanced at Nate, and then his eyes shifted to the lady sitting beside him. He saw her fire-red hair and the way her eyes glittered. It was a reflection of his wife. He turned his eyes to Lisa and saw her glowing. Then he looked back at Scarlet. Cautiously he questioned, unsure, "Aalliyah?" Lisa nodded. Trembling, James made his way across the room. He placed his right hand on her soft cheek and stared into her eyes. "I cannot believe you are before us. I am not dreaming, am I?" "No, I am here," Scarlet replied, and a tear fell down his face. "How?" Maeve explained. "Nate helped Aalliyah find her DNA roots, which led to me, and he reached out to me. Next thing we know, she is here before us." "This is incredible. Aalliyah, my darling, I'm so sorry you haven't known us sooner. It was never supposed to happen that way. I promise I love you very much." "I know," Scarlet began. "Mother told me the story. I am sorry to hear the friend betrayed you both and tore me from you." "Indeed, I'm just grateful you're here now. How long will you be staying?" "A week." "Well, hopefully I'll be able to get out of work earlier some days to spend more time with you. I would love to get to know the lady you've become and hear all about your life up to this point. Ask any question you desire." "I guess we could start with the story of how you two lovebirds met," he said with a grin. Scarlet sighed. "We aren't together. Nate is only a friend. I know it looks like we are more, but he knows it's hard for me facing my past and learning the truth in my beginning." Anyway, we met at the library. He was searching for a book on astronomy, and I assisted him in showing him the section. So you're a librarian? Yes. In fact, I own the library. That's amazing. And what a great beginning to your love story, meeting surrounded by other love stories and novels. Seems fitting. I told you we aren't together. I know, but it seems he really cares for you. I mean, no ordinary person would travel to Galway in a heartbeat to take a friend to meet their biological family. How far did you have to travel? We came by plane from England. See, that is exactly my point. Nate cut in. I did so because, as an astronomer, I am both interested in the past and the future. Scarlet? James questioned, wrinkling his face. Sorry, I mean, Aalliyah felt she didn't know who she was, and that without knowing her prologue in Chapter 1, she could never fully write the rest of her tale. I helped other friends discover their background before and had several methods, so I offered to help her. As he continued talking, he kept their hands joined and gently rubbed his thumb across the top of her hand. I got it to the point of finding and contacting Maeve. Maeve agreed we could meet, and she'd take us to Lisa. I had gotten Aalliyah this far. I couldn't let her do it on her own. That is very kind of you, sir. I'm eternally grateful for you bringing her back to us. Truly, this is the best day of my life. After dinner and talking for a bit, Nate and Scarlett went back to the hotel they were staying in. Nate carefully observed Scarlett to see if she showed any reaction to the first day there. She was quiet as she looked out the window. He inquired, How are you holding up? She informed, It's a lot to take in, but I'm doing okay. I'm excited to see what my mother has planned for the week. Galway is beautiful, I can tell based on the little bit we've seen so far. I can't wait to see more of it. Thank you, Nate, for everything. She rose and hugged him tight. The next day, James had to go to work, but the others were going to spend the day together enjoying all that Galway had. Nate and Scarlett decided to let it up to Lisa what they would do first, because she knew the city best. She grinned and happily planned the entire day. First, she led them down to the beautiful bay. They peered out amazed, seeing the beautiful water shimmering and boats sailing about. Come, let's go on to the dock. I own a boat, and we can go sailing for a little bit, stated Lisa. Lisa started leading the way down to the docks. Scarlett stepped on the dock and gasped, almost falling backwards. Nate immediately grabbed her arm and steadied her. Then he interlocked his hand with hers to keep her stable. Lisa chuckled slightly and stated, Have you never stepped onto a pier before, Aalliyah? I haven't, Scarlett replied. Well, you'll get used to it, though at first it can easily throw you off balance. Lisa led the two over to the one boat tied up and climbed in. Nate let go of Scarlett's hand for a moment to get in, and then he held his hand out to help her down. Then Lisa started untying the boat from the cleats. She tossed the ropes onto the fore of the vessel and met her guest's eyes. I recommend you take a seat, whether it be in these seats or the ones on the bow of the boat, she said. Scarlett sat down on the seat across from where her mother would steer the vessel, and Nate sat behind her. Lisa turned the key and slowly took the boat out of the docks. When they were away from the shallow water, she pushed the throttle up higher. The engine roared more, and the boat stopped bobbing in the water. Soon it was cruising on top of the waves. Lisa kept going at the fast speed until they reached the middle of the bay far from the docks. She turned to her two passengers and asked them if they would like to learn how to drive the motorboat. Scarlett, eager to learn something new, happily agreed. Lisa rose from the driver's seat and allowed her daughter to sit down. Nate, curious, of course, switched to the spot that Scarlett had been so he could see and learn too. Lisa instructed, Aalliyah, by your right hand is the throttle. The further you push it down, the faster the boat will go until it's at its maximum speed. When you take off, you want to ease it into it. Slowly work up the speed, otherwise it'll be really choppy and the boat will literally be bouncing on the water. That sounds fun! Try it if it pleases you, but you'll see what I mean. Then you just steer it like a car. Keep away from any land, though, because it gets too shallow. I am going to take a seat, and then you can try. Lisa went to the back and sat down. She leaned over and whispered to Nate, If Aalliyah is going to full throttle it right away, you best hold on tight. It will be quite the ride. He nodded and wound his fingers onto the rail. Scarlett saw the two were seated and ready. She grinned and pushed the throttle all the way down. The boat bounced rapidly like a ping-pong ball on a wooden floor. Scarlett laughed as the wind tore through her hair and the waves repelled the boat each time the two touched. Finally, the boat leveled itself out and glided on top of the water once more. Scarlett settled down and stopped laughing. She continued driving the vessel for a bit more, before offering the wheel to Nate. He took over and gently guided the boat along the waters. When he was ready to pass the wheel back to Lisa, she told him to turn the key off. He did, and then she tossed the anchor over the side of the vessel. She pulled out the cooler and welcomed them to eat lunch. Nate noticed Scarlett seemed a million miles away, so he implored, "Are you all right?" She answered, "Yes, I'm fine, just worn out." "Sailing does that," mentioned Lisa. "After we finish eating, I'll take us back to land. If you want to relax, I recommend the bow." When they finished eating, Scarlett took her mother's advice and went to the bow of the little motorboat. Nate joined her and wrapped his arm around her. Lisa started the boat and at a slow speed set off. Scarlett lay back, resting her head against Nate's chest. Lisa considered making another couple remark, but didn't, knowing her daughter was exhausted and needed something other than the shallow side of the seat to lean upon. The two finally sat up when the little motorboat pulled into the docks. Lisa tied it to the cleats and they all climbed out. Once again, Nate took Scarlett's hand to keep her steady on the moving boards as they made it back to the hard land. On the third day, Lisa asked if the two had brought any fancy clothing with them, such as a dress, but neither did. She grinned and declared it a shopping day without revealing her reason. The three walked into the center of the busy city and started going in and out of each shop. Lisa clearly had a set idea of what she wanted her daughter to dress in because she kept leading them to a certain style. Lisa and Scarlett found one they both liked and decided to get that one, but kept it hidden from Nate so he could see it later. Then they had to find a pair of matching shoes for her. They ate lunch out in the town, but then Lisa took them back to her house. Finally, she revealed there was a Cayley dance festival in the one building. Nearly everyone in town would be attending. Suddenly, Scarlett became extremely nervous. She loved dancing, but she didn't know anything of Irish dances. Lisa, of course, knew this, and planned to spend at least an hour teaching the two the basics they would need for the evening. Scarlett relaxed as she picked up the steps. Last, Lisa declared it was time they began getting ready. She took Scarlett upstairs to help her get dressed for the dance. Once Scarlett changed into her dress, her mother started doing her hair and then added the slightest touch of makeup. She nodded approvingly and then motioned for her daughter to follow. At the top of the stairs, she proclaimed, "Allow me to present Aalliyah." Nick came to the base of the stairs and peered up. There he saw Scarlett wearing a rich magenta gown. The skirt of it was loose and flowing like a full-circle skirt and hung down to her mid-shin. Around the waist was a black ribbon tied with a bow. The top of the gown rested just off the shoulders and had a ruffled neckline. The sleeves were short poof balls. Scarlett's eyes were carefully outlined with a bit of eyeliner. A pale pink blush was highlighting her freckles, and her lips were painted a ruby red. Her red hair was pulled into a high ponytail with the ends carefully tucked around it, making it almost appear like a bun. A few loose strands were pulled down to frame her face. A black bow was tied in Scarlett's hair. The whole outfit was tied together with a pair of black flats, and that had a rose on top of the shade of Scarlett's lips. Slowly, she climbed down the stairs to Nate's astonished face. "You look beautiful," he commented breathlessly. "Thank you," she replied. "You are decently dressed as well." She ran her hand over the pale blue button-up shirt on his chest. Lightly, she pulled on his black overcoat and straightened it. Gently, he ran his hand along her cheek and caressed it down her neck to her shoulder and down her arm until he locked his hand with hers. The two turned to face the stairs, where Lisa stood at the top. In her pale lilac gown, she descended. When she stood in front of the two, she commented, "I thought for sure you were going to kiss her. It was such a perfect moment." Nate chuckled. "We are nowhere near that close. And besides, I wouldn't want to destroy her makeup and make us late." "Fair point. I suppose we should be off. James is waiting outside for us." They walked outside and found James was waiting with a carriage. Excitedly, Scarlett and Nate climbed in, with Lisa following. James sat on the coachman's seat and set off. Once they arrived, James detached the horse and put them in the open pasture with his tag on. Then, along with his wife and two guests, they entered the large building entirely made for dancing. The room was dimly lit, but it seemed very elegant. The music playing was lively, and they watched the people dancing about for a few minutes. When the song concluded, Nate held out his hand to Scarlett, and she took it. He bowed and then kissed the top of her hand. The new song began playing, and the two started dancing in time with each other. Fortunately, this was one of the dances Lisa had taught them earlier, and they blended in with the Irish folk perfectly. Song after song, the two danced, but soon they were starting to wear down without a break. They went over to the side where refreshments were. The man over there happily poured a glass of Irish whiskey. She took a little sip, but realized it tasted so different compared to what she is used to back in England. Quickly, she downed her entire glass. Nate, on the other hand, chose to sip his slowly and cherished it for longer. The bartender thought, "Would the lady like another?" Eagerly, she nodded. Nate and Aalliyah sat down at the table and started drinking it just as quickly. Nate placed his hand on top of hers and warned, "Careful, you wouldn't want to drink them so fast." "What, do you think I can't handle it? Because I can," she responded almost in a challenging way. When a waiter walked by, she happily swiped a glass from it and emptied another cup. She sat there for a few moments watching the dancers out there prancing about. She scanned the unfamiliar faces, seeing if she could spot where her parents had gone to, but they were buried in the crowd. Then she saw someone she recognized, her Aunt Maeve. When the song concluded, Maeve saw the two and made her way over to them with a large smile. "Hey, how's it going, you two? Are you enjoying the Kaylee?" "I sure am," cried Scarlet. Nate answered, "Indeed, but I'm a bit concerned for her." He glanced at Scarlet and turned back to Maeve. "She's already drank 3 glasses, and in a short time." "Oh, she'll be fine. I've had 5, and look at me, my head is as clear as ever. She's part Irish. She was born to handle it." "Yes, but the Irish whiskey is really strong compared to what she is likely used to back in England." "I wouldn't worry. Aalliyah will be fine. I'm sure she knows her limit. If you are so concerned, make sure you don't leave her side tonight." Scarlet grabbed another cup as the waitress passed by. She went to take a sip, but Nate protectively laid his hand on hers. "Let her go," insisted Maeve. Nate sighed and removed his hand. Before he knew it, another glass was drained. "Let's go dancing," declared Scarlet, leaping down from the chair. Nate nodded, grateful to get her away from the glasses. She was laughing and having fun as she spun out of control around the room. Then she pranced around the room, and Nate could not get over how high her energy level was. The one song concluded, and Scarlet gazed straight into his eyes with a warm smile. Before he knew it, her lips were on his. She pulled away, only to encase them again. "Scarlet," he said quietly. "It's Aalliyah," she corrected. She continued smothering him in kisses, but then decided to let him breathe. "It's about time," claimed Lisa, entering the scene. The two turned to face Lisa, and Scarlet placed her arm around Nate, leaning into his shoulder. Nate mentioned, "Yeah, but she's as drunk as can be." "I'm fine," insisted Scarlet. "How many has she had?" 4. "Oh, that's not that bad. I'm at 6, but I suppose she isn't used to it, and it's affecting her more strongly." "I'm fine," repeated Scarlet with a large cheeky grin. "You say that now, but wait until tomorrow, my dear." The music started again, and Scarlet happily started dancing again. Finally, the Kaylee came to a close, and James waited outside, ready with the carriage. Nate and Scarlet sat down on the same side. She lied down, resting her head on Nate's lap, and gazed up into his eyes. He smiled and gently stroked her hair. The steady motion of the carriage went on, and then soon Scarlet's eyes slipped shut. Lisa observed, "She will sleep well tonight. Don't rush coming over in the morning. She needs rest. I'd say let her sleep until lunch if she doesn't awaken on her own. Any later than that, and she'll regret remaining in bed so long. James is taking us to your hotel first." "Thank you." Lisa nodded. Shortly they arrived at the hotel. Nate lifted Scarlet into his arms, and Lisa followed them to their room so she could unlock the door for them. Then they said good night. Gently, Nate lied Scarlet down in the bed. He took her shoes off and set them on the floor. And then he untied her ribbon from her hair. Lastly, he unpinned her hair, taking out her ponytail. He left her in her dress, though, not wanting to change her. He turned the lamp off and curled up beside her in bed. He leaned over and kissed her forehead. Softly he whispered, "Good night, Aalliyah. Please don't forget this night by morning. It was so wonderful holding you so close and feeling your lips on mine. I want you to be my girlfriend. There is none other like you." He kissed her forehead again and lied her down.